leaning on the people that believe in you is such a critical thing, I think.
Totally. I mean, we're very similar in the fact that only we can climb the mountain.
When we set out to make this season of the Final Summit, we knew we wanted to go bigger. In the past, we had covered my journey climbing the tallest peaks in the world, and we explored what life was like after the adventure, and how that journey drove me to pursue a career in advocacy with Save One Life. But then the question arose, how do you follow that? There literally aren't bigger mountains to climb, at least not on this planet. So instead, we looked inward and took a look at our own community. Everyone has their own adventure, their own journey, their own final summit to overcome. Maybe not literally, but definitely spiritually. So for this season of the podcast, we're moving away from the mountains and hearing from community members with their own peaks to conquer. Some are in the rearview mirror, and others are just beginning. But every single one of them is going after that dream that many said was impossible, and that may have been discounted early in life. We're talking with bleeders and dreamers who've embraced their bleeding disorder on their journey and used it to fuel them. Against all odds, there's no mountain too high and no journey too tough. My name is Chris Bombardier, and I'm a mountaineer with hemophilia. From 2011 to 2018, I successfully climbed the 7 summits, the tallest mountain on each of the 7 continents. But I'm not the only one with a story to tell. This season, we're talking with inspirational people all over the world who've navigated their own bleeding disorders and embraced who they really are. Now, they're on their own journeys to achieve what many have called impossible. This is the Final Summit Season 3, Climbing Your Own Mountain.
This next segment is brought to you by Genentech. Being the caregiver of someone with hemophilia can be hard, but know that you are not alone. Genentech has several resources for navigating hemophilia, including stories from other members in the community. In the words of Miranda, a mother of twin boys with hemophilia, since connecting with other hemophilia families and educating ourselves had been so helpful, we made a point of getting involved with a larger community and attended conferences whenever we could. To hear more about Miranda and others in the hemophilia community, please visit www.caregiversupport.com.
So I'm Trevor Martin. I have severe hemophilia A and factor A deficiency, and I'm from Bowling Green, Kentucky. I'm currently living in Nashville, Tennessee. I'm a pop country artist, so I put out a lot of music, play a lot of shows, and just really loving life and loving sharing music with people. Singer-songwriter, so yeah.
That's amazing. And how old are you?
I'm 27. Just turned 27 in February.
Okay, just a young baby. I got a decade on you.
Yeah.
To kick things off this season, we're talking to some people at the start of their journey. How did you find out that you had severe hemophilia? Like, what was the diagnosis process like? Do you even remember it?
I don't remember it. I was 2 days old, and my first trip out of the hospital in Bowling Green was actually the hour drive to Nashville, and was rushed in an ambulance to Vanderbilt University. And my parents were freaking out, of course, and I wouldn't stop bleeding when I was 2 days old. Obviously, my parents were pretty scared, but we got to Vanderbilt and they're like, hey, it's hemophilia. And my parents are like, hemo what? But everything was great through childhood, and my parents were awesome and making sure that I had a port. I got a port when I was, I think, 2 years old, and had that until I was 8 years old. That's a game changer, and I don't know if as many hemophiliacs are getting ports anymore, which is awesome.
Yeah.
The medicine has improved so much that you don't have to have one of those things in your heart, essentially. So yeah, 2 days old was when I was diagnosed, but here I am.
Have you ever talked to your parents about what they were feeling like when you were diagnosed? Like, how did they tell their friends about it, or the rest of the family? What was that experience like for them?
There was a point a couple years ago that I did ask them about kind of what they were feeling, and just really sad, and they weren't sure if I was going to make it, and just felt like their world was crumbling down because I was their firstborn and only born, so I'm an only child. But, at that moment, they were just really thought that I was going to die, and they were obviously very concerned and just upset.
It's kind of a weird story of how I got diagnosed because I've had it my whole life, but I was diagnosed when I was 15. My name is Destiny Sharp. I'm 23 years old. I'm originally from Pinion Hills, California, but a year ago I moved to Los Angeles to pursue acting. I actually did a blood drive for my school, and I donated blood, and it was like my first time donating. And they told us, if this is your first time, you're probably going to feel like a little sick afterwards, but it's normal, like, oh, you're going to be fine. So I was like, okay. So I did it. And then afterwards, I was not feeling good. I felt really low energy. I missed like a week of school because I looked like I had jaundice. My skin was like yellow. I was really sick. And my mom was like really worried about me. She was like, I want to take you to the doctors, but also you did just give blood, so maybe this is normal. And so she's like, we'll give it a couple more days and see. And then the second week hit and I was even more sick than the first week. I just feel something's wrong. And so we went to the doctors. They ran a whole bunch of tests. And then about a week later, they gave us the phone call. And they told my mom that I was diagnosed with von Willebrand's disease. And my mom was just like, my mom's very overprotective of me. And of course, as all moms, she was like in panic mode. And she's like, what does this mean?
Definitely a lot of pillows all over the place when I was learning to crawl, learning to walk. I don't really remember that, but in home videos and in my parents talking, they said, yeah, there was always pillows and knee pads and elbow pads, stuff like that.
Admittedly, I was an angsty teen and I was like, I don't want to do this. I don't want anyone else to know that I have this. And my mom was like, why? This is who you are and you should find people that are like you. And so I was in that stage of high school too, where it's just like, why is this happening to me? Like, I was in theater and I was involved in a lot of stuff. And this was just, in my mind, I was like, oh, this is just something I don't need. But it turned out to be such a life-changing thing for me in so many ways, in so many positive ways. As scary as it was, looking back, I'm eternally grateful that I found out when I did.
So interesting. I feel like so many of us had that same feeling in high school of why do I have to have this? Why do I have to deal with it? Because you're just trying to figure out life as a teenager and who you are and what you want to be and all these things and how to fit in. And it just makes you feel different and adds another thing to your plate when it's super challenging.
I never had any issues with bullying or feeling different than anyone. I was a pretty active kid and still played baseball, still played basketball, did theater, sang, but I never ever felt like anyone was even thinking about that. I think a lot of my friends knew. I told my friends, I was pretty open about it. And I told my teachers for sure, but I never felt like I was treated any differently by anybody, which was a good thing. I know a lot of people in the hemophilia community struggle with joint bleeds and typically maybe don't participate in things because they don't want to risk injury. And that was never me. I really have lived a pretty clean life as far as bleeds. I haven't had a bleed since high school.
Oh man, that's amazing.
And maybe the bleeds that I had in high school were because I was playing basketball and I rolled my ankle like Michael Jordan would have rolled his ankle and had pain.
Right.
Nothing really out of the blue or anything.
I'm very independent and I told my mom, I was like, I know it's important for other people to know, but I also I don't want to be defined by that. I don't want to be like, oh, this person, she has a bleeding disorder, so we need to give her special treatment. I didn't like that. And so I was like, I don't want to be classified as different. Or I remember I got this card and it was basically for lunch, I could go to the front of the line and stuff like that. And it was just stuff that I appreciated, but I just didn't need it. I didn't see the mean for it. And so my mom was like, oh, we'll let you know in case you're having a bleed or you need to. And I was like, I get it. But at the same time, I don't want it. So yeah, my mom let all my teachers know. We had a meeting with all my teachers and I told them, I was like, I'm letting you know in case something happens, but please don't just assume that I can't do something because I have this.
Yeah.
And I think I experienced it a couple of times. And I think the first time I experienced it where it really frustrated me was I was also alongside theater. I was in show choir and we were doing this dance routine that I've always done where we do flips and stuff. And my partner flipped me and he accidentally lost his grip and I fell and I got a bruise from my rib cage all the way down to my knee. It was pretty gnarly and I iced it. I took my medicine and made sure I was okay, but I was ready to come back the next day and they're so sorry, but we're taking you out of the lift. And I was like, what? Like, I auditioned for this, and they're like, sorry, like, you have a bleeding disorder, and like, we're not gonna risk it on the stage of like something happening to you, and then if you get a bleed, then we're gonna have to stop the performance, or we don't wanna have to make these like special accommodations for you. And I was like,
Wow.
I fell one time, like, I can do this. And so that really frustrated me.
You mentioned growing up that you were into theater and that was something that you were very interested in and excited about. How and when did you start your finding that love for theater and acting?
I was a really shy kid growing up because of, I think I was very introverted, and I also had a speech impediment growing up. And so I was just extremely shy, and around my family, I was extroverted, but around anybody else, I just shut down, didn't talk to anybody. And my mom really wanted me to like get involved and get out of my shell. So she tried a million different ways. She tried dance, pageants, like different things, and I hated them all. And I was like, this is like, why do you keep doing this to me? I hate this. But then when I was 9 years old, my mom signed me up for acting classes. And I was so mad at her. I was like, I'm not gonna like this. Why are you making like an introvert do something that I fear? Because I always hated doing like oral presentations in front of classes. And so this is my worst fear, Mom. Like, why is this? How do you think this is gonna help me? But I ended up just falling in love with it. And I think for me, I could step into somebody else's shoes, and I didn't have to be Destiny for the day. I could be somebody else, but like through my own lens. But yeah, I loved it.
I, from an early age, knew that I wanted to be an entertainer of some sort. I always was a pretty good singer and really had a lot of courage and confidence from a really early age, singing in church, singing with local orchestra, and that was always something that I knew that I wanted to do. I actually started doing acting. I guess I was probably around 10 and did quite a few acting classes in Nashville and found a lady who really believed in me and wanted to be my manager, who had a lot of success in Hollywood in the early 2000s with like Disney Channel and stuff. So my parents and I ended up going out to Los Angeles, doing a lot of auditions and acting classes, and I booked a few cool roles and had a few cool things happen. Had a director session with J. Abrams, which was really cool, for the movie Super 8. I was up for the role of one of the kids and was one of the last few for that, and had a director session with Cameron Crowe, who directed Almost Famous, and Jerry Maguire. So that was really cool. I think I got second place, which it doesn't matter if you get second place for the movie We Bought a Zoo. But I think I kind of realized towards the end of high school, like, I didn't want to go to LA, and I didn't really like the hustle and bustle of the city, really. I just wanted to flirt with girls and play basketball and live a normal childhood.
Being out here, the stress of LA, it's one of the most stressful careers I'm trying to pursue because there's a lot of rejection with that. And so I think that I need to focus on my health as well. And I think that's what a lot of people don't talk about, is how hard that is and that transition is.
At the tail end of high school, I started writing a lot of songs, and I was like, oh, this is really fun, and was always the lead in my high school musicals, and everyone thought that was cool. And I'm like, I'm good at music. I want to continue this. And a lot of people were like, what about Belmont University? You ever thought about Belmont in Nashville? And I was like, yeah, I've never heard of it, but let's check it out. So I ended up going to Belmont University, which is known for being a music school, music business. And so I went there, and that's kind of really where things unlocked for me. And I realized that I was a good guitar player and could understand how to write music, how to play piano, and do all sorts of things. So my love started for music at an early age, but then in college is where it grew to where I knew that I wanted to do it full time.
I'm doing this because the little girl that I'm trying to make proud is the girl that has a disorder, and she's a girl that's trying to pursue this.
Follow your passion. You hear that advice being thrown out all the time when you're figuring out what you want to do in life. But it's easier said than done. That first step might be scary, but also sometimes you might not even realize you're on the path until suddenly opportunity knocks. My journey to climb the 7 summits certainly came as a surprise. The idea was in my head, but I had no idea how to actually move forward on it. It seemed too daunting to take that first step, even when the opportunity arose. But I knew I couldn't let it slip by. I was working in the hemophilia research lab in Colorado and was invited to join my boss on a trip to Kenya. She said she needed some help to start a diagnostic lab in Western Kenya. So I followed my gut. The idea was so exciting that I leaped at the invite. What a crazy experience. But I also knew that if we were going to Africa, it could be my chance to climb Kilimanjaro. They were close by, so I knew I had to try it. It seemed like a sign. I was nervous and a little scared. But the only way to reach your dreams is to take a step towards them. What did you do that really inspired you to chase this dream?
The lead up to it was crazy because I, again, didn't want to really get involved with the community. My mom pushed me towards that, and she forced me to go to this hemophilia convention. And one of the first people that came up was Michelle Lee, which was our chapter director out here. And she introduced herself and she was like, "This is a random question, but are you into acting?" And I was like, "Oh, yes, I am." And she's like, "Well, we have this program." And she was like, "I don't know if you've ever heard of Patrick Lynch, but he's putting on this program in New York. And basically they're going to select a few people to go and participate to write a musical about kids who have hemophilia." And I was like, "Oh, that's so cool." And my mom's eyes lit up and she's like, "This is the whole reason we were supposed, that you have to do this, Destiny." I knew there was a reason you're supposed to connect with people. I auditioned, didn't really think anything of it. And my mom, the whole lead up to, she was like, "Oh, you're getting this. You're going to New York. You're going to New York." I was like, "Mom," she was telling her whole family before it was even announced.
The people who have really lifted me up, of course, my parents, Alan and Jolene are their names, and they've been supportive from day one. That's always a huge thing is when you have supportive parents, and I don't take that for granted because there's a lot of people in the music industry, especially, that their parents are just like, "Why are you throwing your life away?" Which doesn't have to be the case.
It was such a life-changing experience, and just being able to meet people who same age as me and are going through the same experiences. It just, growing up as a shy kid, I didn't have a lot of friends that I could really relate to, or if I told them about my health problems, it was just laughed off or just not really talked about. And so having kids that really understood what it was like. Being a teenager is already kind of a struggle for a lot of kids. So having something on top of that, it was very relatable and just so beautiful to see a whole community come together for this. And I also was able to meet my boyfriend through it, Carson. He also has a bleeding disorder, and it was just crazy that that's what brought us together, because otherwise we probably never would have met.
My favorite thing right now has been seeing the reaction from people on social media. I've got quite a few love songs right now where thousands and thousands of people have used them as a video for someone that they love. I have a song called Keeper that I did the thing called the Keeper Challenge, where couples would just use pictures and videos with that song. And I'd say about 40,000 people that I know of have made a video using that song. And I've got a song that just released called Promise You That. And that's the first 6.5 weeks. Probably 10,000 people have used that sound and that song. I love playing at weddings right now. That's been something that's been really special for me.
It's just crazy to have somebody in my life too that understands what I'm going through, and it was a life-changing experience for that. And as well as acting, it opened my eyes and said, "Oh, I can do acting, and also I can integrate my disorder into what I do because it's who I am, and I can wear it as a badge now instead of being afraid to show it."
I have a lot of super supportive friends that have really helped me a lot. A couple people from my hometown that really supported me and played on all my tracks. They're a band named Klein. They're a Christian group, and one of my very best friends, his name's Garrett Klein, and he was on the road with Dylan Scott for years, he and his brother Derek, and they really were good encouragers for me, and I called them for a lot of questions. My producers have been awesome. They introduced me to one of my producers, Kurt Gibbs, who has had quite a few #1s, and so that was a big help. And then my songwriters, one of my very best friends too, is named Spencer Crandall, and he has built his career online.
I think it's really cool, being able to create with Carson as well. He's also in the film industry, which is really cool. So we also have that, something that we share. And so being able to create art with your best friends is really awesome. And so it was a big step. We actually entered a short horror film competition, and we made the top 40, which was really awesome. And me and Carson we just wrote our first longer short film. The one that we wrote was 2 minutes, but this one's a 20-minute film that we've been working on for the past 2 years. So we just got the script written, and we're ready to roll into pre-production for it. So I'm super excited.
What advice would you give to other people with bleeding disorders that want to pursue these ambitious dreams that some people might find crazy or unreachable. What would you encourage and tell them?
I think not only just for people with bleeding disorders, but anybody, is just really try it. And it's art at the end of the day. Maybe it's not your career, but if it's something that you enjoy, to do it. Write a song and just keep doing it. I'm not perfect in it. No one's perfect. I think if you ask Ed Sheeran, he'd say, no, I'm not perfect yet. I'm still got a lot of room to grow. And I see these other things that I want to do. But like I said, it's art. Just continue to create it and fine tune it to what you want it to be. I think for people with bleeding disorders, especially music and acting and things like that, are just a super safe way to be active too, and to do something that's different than winning your state championship football game, because we can't do that. That's not typically on a hemophiliac's to-do list. But yeah, just keep pushing and do what you enjoy. And if you enjoy it, then probably someone else is going to enjoy it too.
If somebody came up to me and asked me, I would tell them that they can do whatever they set their minds to, because I don't think that there's any goal that's too small. If acting doesn't pan out, if in 5 years I decide, look, I liked it, but I didn't make it as an actor, or there's something else I want to do, I don't think that means I failed as an actor. It just means that I didn't fail because I'm out here and I'm doing it and I gave it my best. And just because you didn't succeed doesn't mean that you didn't try. And that within itself is succeeding, because you're doing your goals. And so I think that whatever goal you have, it's a cheesy line, but I've said it since I was little. It's reach for the moon. If you don't make it, you land amongst the stars. And I think that's so true, is that you don't know where you're going to end up, but just don't let other people make decisions for you and tell you what you can and can't do.
There's a resiliency in having a bleeding disorder. And if you can take that resiliency to another profession, like acting, like singing, like climbing mountains. I mean, seriously, you got to have some type of resiliency, and that's built from how we've always lived our lives. I think if you can really channel that into the things that you love, because let's be honest, we don't love having a bleeding disorder. It's not something that maybe we would choose to do. I wouldn't change it about myself, but I wouldn't have chosen this probably. If you gave me a walk through this green door or walk through the red door and you get to have it or not, I would have walked through the green door and not had it. But the resiliency can really help in our career paths. Even if that's, I want to be super successful in business or in selling cars or whatever, like resiliency is huge with that. And I think it's a big help.
If I'm being honest, I think that in high school, I had these goals of, by the time I'm 25, I want to be on my first feature, I want to move to LA, or I want to do this. And I think that setting goals is really important. But also what I've learned, especially this last year, is that you can make a plan. It doesn't always mean it's going to go that way. And so I used to get so caught up on, this is not how I wanted it to work out. But being diagnosed with von Willebrand's disease 2 just proved to me that just because it's not what you think you wanted, it can turn out for the best. I think my biggest goal is just help people, and I want to inspire people like me. I think if I'm being 100% transparent, I was a little nervous for this podcast, just for the fact that I feel like I haven't been in touch with my community for a while. And I feel like, I think I got in my head and I was like, I feel like I'm almost like a fraud. And I was like, wait, I had a second lesson and I was like, I'm not a fraud. I have a disorder. Life has gone in the way and I've been pursuing other avenues, but I have this disorder and that's real. That doesn't make me, a fraud. And being able to do opportunities like this is what I want to do, because I want to talk about, doesn't matter who you are, you can pursue your dreams.
I think back about my climbs and all that stuff. You never do any of these things on your own. It's about finding the people that understand your passion for things and your drive to accomplish a dream, and listening to those people and not letting the other people that think you're crazy dissuade you from it. Leaning on the people that believe in you is such a critical thing, I think.
Totally. We're very similar in the fact that only we can climb the mountain, actually do the act of climbing the mountain. I can only be the one that sings the song, but those people around us who hype us up and make us feel like, hey, you can do it, you're worthy, you're enough, that's huge. So
when I was first starting out, it was easy to get caught up in your own individual achievements. But when you have a bleeding disorder, you quickly learn that you can't do everything by yourself. From doctors, caretakers, parents, teachers, friends, and so many more, it takes a community. And more than that, it's important to find the people who can lift you up and support you. Whether that means helping you navigate the unique challenges that come with your condition, or lending you an ear when you're working through something entirely emotional, it's important to find your tribe. When I first started climbing mountains, I couldn't have done it without my wife giving me the confidence to keep going, even when the path forward wasn't clear. My treatment center team for helping me chase a wild dream instead of trying to convince me not to. My Uncle Dave for teaching me how to climb safely, and so many more people along the way. And while it might be inspirational to hear the story of triumph, for every individual who's reached the peak, there's a village that got them there. Whether it's your first step on your own journey or the last stretch, find your own village, your own supporters, and always be open to be that voice and helping hand for someone else in need. On next week's episode, the importance of telling your story and of sharing your journey with the rest of the world. I'm Chris Bombardier. Until next time, keep climbing your own mountain.
The Final Summit is produced by BloodStream Media. Learn more at bloodstreammedia.com. This episode is hosted by Chris Bombardier, written by Dru Johnston, edited by Greg Bernard, produced by Keith Corneluk, executive produced by Patrick James Lynch. The Final Summit was also made possible by support from Genentech. Visit genentechhemophilia.com to take a look at how they are supporting the hemophilia community.